Thank you very much. And I've been looking forward to today. And this is in honor of Sunny. Before I start, let me just play you a video to give you a feel of what I'm going to talk about. Audio. We tested the audio earlier. Okay, anyway, I do a commentary. This Dr. Polunin, yeah, that's Dr. Polunin. Yeah. Okay. Well, he lived between. No, we tested earlier. The audio is okay because he's going through a separate channel, right? Is it going through your? I know. There is. Oh, okay. Okay, I'll just play the original. Did it come out? There is. We tested it earlier, but we changed the system. Yeah, I know. I'm looking for the. Okay. Let me play with the original. Okay.
Motion picture film has a limited lifespan, and time ran out for much of the film of Singapore's past. The cans grew rusty, dust gathered behind locked doors, and the past was forgotten. Rolls of film succumbed to humidity and fused themselves into solid, fragile lumps of celluloid. This is where a treasure trove of Singapore's visual and vibrant past is being prepared for public viewing, an undertaking that Dr. Ivan Polunin has been at work on for a very long time. Over 50 years ago, he was more down to earth, getting hot, getting dirty. But filming the images wasn't the end of it. Half a century later, preserving the images for posterity is now the prime objective.
What happens is that the triacetate film, in the presence of water, hydrolyzes to form acetic acid, which is vinegar. And it destroys film utterly.
Okay. Now, that is where we took from. We took this project from there. He died in 2010. I got to know him well in the 1990s when he came looking for my help because I was the head of the multimedia section. And he wanted to extract some of the material from his tapes and convert it for use in the studio to make a film for broadcast. And that was a tall order because it's a big project to do that. Anyway, we improvised something for him. But the point was that I got to know him well. And so I went to his lab, which was what you see. But I saw audio tapes there, and they were field recording tapes. But in the mass of all his material, I couldn't estimate what it was. But I said I will look at it at some point, but I couldn't. And then he passed away. And then one day I decided to look at it about 3 years ago. And I had to clear the whole mess first. And lo and behold, he was an ethnomusicologist. In addition to being a professional doctor who was sent there under the UNESCO program, sent to Singapore to help establish the social medicine. And he did it in a way that is legendary because he brought multimedia into it and his 16 millimeter film camera. Nagra tape recorders, and he covered many, many countries. See? I will show you all the acknowledgements that he had, but essentially, the laboratory that he did. Just a minute. The laboratory looks different today, and because I'm trying to look now for the original video to show you. Anyway, when okay, finale. No. Okay, let me go to the PowerPoint. So. Some of this don't. Okay, this is the content of his field music work. No more the film. 256 quarter-inch field tapes, recorded on very high-level Nagra tape recorders. 168 quarter-inch tapes with 16 millimeter film. This is the great new find for ethnomusicology, because no ethnomusicologist that I know of, including Yap Kuns, Dr. Maseda, and Dr. Tran Ki, who are the legends of this part of the world, have this kind of work in the field, where you do film and 16 millimeter, and you sync it to a spool tape. 100 tapes to be repaired and codified, which is where the students who will do this can come and learn from places like this. But how to clean up the tapes and adjust them and so on, you see. And 100 DV tapes, which he did after he met me. So we devised a system. I'll show a video later of what that system was, where the 16 millimeter was projected onto a screen and he recorded it with DV. But he went on to annotate by voice, because I was a firm believer in timeline annotation. So when you watch the video, you also get a track where the commentator speaks. But there has been no technology to help this. You see, and it has been my quest for 25 years to find that technology to help people like Dr. Polunin. So where he left, I took on the laboratory to make it into a working laboratory where I can send students from the Mekong and the Straits in to do work. 50 VHS and audio cassettes. There are even more. I just put 50. 40 boxes of notes, and that's the way I'm struggling now, because all his notes are mixed. He's a very complex man, you know? Scientist, doctor, artist, artistic collector of very rare ceramics, botanist, where he created a garden. So when you see the video later of the current lab, you can see out of the windows just like the laboratory here, and you see a mass of green. Now that mass of green is his research laboratory in botany. He believed that plants could actually interrelate and live in an environment. And of course, it's still there in his house. And lastly, equipment configuration, his own. And I have changed many of the things there for us to work in. IPML today, this is the video I want to show you, and I hope, see, I can't even control the mouse when linked to this. Okay, this is the equipment that we configured for him to shoot DV, so he can work with the main tapes. Okay, this is the last remaining workable machine. So I'm using it now. This is stuff from Kiribati in the Pacific. But anyway, I'm showing you. Now you see the recorder, I don't place much emphasis in configuring the digitization. You get the best equipment to do multiple levels. So I can do a complete wave with just that small machine. So everything is portable, and students don't need to be faced with all this. Now these are the tapes linked to the film, this line, and it's going to be a new discovery for when we work on it finally with the professional to get it out. Victor Pang has been working with me for 30 years. He was a student in my electronic lab, and now he's a professional IT guy. And he has gone through all the valuable tapes to code them so that they relate now also to the audio. This is the view of the current lab. Okay. Where he recorded is mind-boggling, because all these countries he recorded in, and he kept the music to traditional, folk, and indigenous. And I'm building up the list now. I've already done it for almost 200 of the 256 tapes. I will finish the full lot before I return to Thailand. The thing is that in it there are terrific recordings of the Asian countries too, and this has been missed by everybody studying Southeast Asia. Is there something new? I would say there would be, but we have to compare. So the tapes in Thailand, for example, deal with also Laos, and it deals with the Lam music. And Thailand is going to organize a world conference on Lam with the surrounding states, and all those who did Lam music, will be invited to it. But that, I think, will be a normal way of life there. But the IPML will be a string of labs, because there's another lab for Tran Wan Ki in South Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City. And there is a terrific lab now in Manila, in UP, on Maseda. And of course, the best of all is in Amsterdam, which has the total collection of Yap Kuns who worked in Java. I mean, I would say Indonesia, not all parts. But all of these people, especially Ivan Polunin, Yap Kuns, they were something else, but they did musicology, you see, and that is the message we want to send to the young people. Everybody can be something in this line and contribute something. So the configuration of the technology is what I am going to show you, is something that I was working on for years, but it is still an ongoing project. Now, Ivan Polunin published 2 records under the UNESCO series Folkways. This is the first one. They are all on the Borneo territories, and this is the second one. Also, this is a full. In the previous recording, he had 2 tracks with Maseda and all the rest. It was called the Kalimantan Expedition, and in this, it was UNESCO discovered that he had really a lot of recordings on the Borneo territories. So they asked him to publish one, and these are the notes and so on. Now the reviews of his film strips and maps and globe was done at the professional level, and this is music and film. Was reviewed by this. These are, I think, world coordinating bodies for those who do this type of work. Do we have something for what we are doing? That is the question to ask, right? You must ask it seriously. Not take for granted anything. Now, Alan Lomax is a major name in ethnomusicology. He began to develop a classification system for folk songs, because he saw the whole world is ringed with specific folk songs, and he developed something called the cantometrics. And I think the mainstream of ethnomusicology rejected it, mainly because they fear mathematics. Nothing else. I don't see anything wrong with what Alan Lomax wrote. But Alan Lomax reviewed this. In his review, he acknowledged that Ivan Polunin is an expert in Oceania song forms. And I would say now it's my job to show the world what he did. And that I'm on track to do that. I think he's right. Alan Lomax was right. Yeah. Now, the others who wrote about Ivan Polunin, and nobody knows, is John Blacking. In ethnomusicology, he's like a biblical figure now because he has connected the world with the tribes through his poetry. I mean, his poetic writings. Bruno Nettel is like the guru of ethnomusicology. Anything he says in ethnomusicology sends shock waves around the discipline. Jose Maceda is a very humble, hardworking professor. I studied under him, and I went into the field with him. And in the field, there was one instance where we were recording a seance, and all our job as students is to work as a team and particularly take down the annotations of the seance singer. Nobody understood the language. So he's using this fantastic Nagra system. And I went to him and said, don't you think we should use one channel to record the seance singer so that we can go back and translate it properly? And he got very angry with me because he believed that the sound is more important to be recorded at its best, you see, and that's something I learned in the field. But today, if I go into the field, I have a totally different system, a multi-track system, because that taught me a lot, that you have to finish your work in a proper laboratory. Later, if we have time, I'll show you what that was. Now, the IPML is part of what I'm setting up, the integrated music system, which is to blend everything in a way that is palatable, right? Palatable to people. And it is, I think the major change in this is that you can write your text to the sound. Okay, so I'll demonstrate it to you a while, and your graphics too, and then you can build up the infrastructure. So I foresee all the students that I'll deal with in the Mekong and Straits will now work integratedly online. And they move to laboratories to do practical work, or they go into databases of these laboratories. So we build up a system, something like this. This is already operational in the sense that the centerpiece there is the software. So that is the interface to everything. So every sound is controlled by this interface. It was intended that way for larger users in Library of Congress. Okay, let me stand here, sorry. This is where the assets are. So anything that we study is put there, audio. And your interface is connected through there. And you work. My preference is the laptop. See, so like in Thailand, in Mahasarakam University, or everybody said 40 students, they are on their laptops because they all have laptops. So we use the laptops. You have to go through an account authentication, and the account authentication is that Victor. He works from everywhere. So if he gets a message that 5 people have to go in, we will do it from wherever he is, authenticate them, and send them this software, either pre-prepared in the lab or the raw software where they work on whatever they have to work. And that one will link through a process that is controlled from the authentication for them to work on. And there's a time limit. So let's say they got 5 days. So 5 days at that point of time, the account stops. You're left with this. And some of this is very sophisticated. It could be even one book. I don't care. I think this is, like all books today, should be with the people. But you cannot get back to the asset, okay, until you come through again. Okay? So this part here is going to be controlled in a different manner to ensure that the copyrights are maintained. Okay? Because there is no other way you can do it. It's physical. So if Victor cannot do it, we will contract online. anywhere. I mean, today call service, you call the call service, the person is in India, from Singapore, or Philippines, or somewhere else, and they are handling something in the local environment. So that's the model here. Now, if the student, as usual, they want to put a lot of the material, film, pictures, other sites, they will just do it from the software, but into a second server, the wiki server, right? The Messi is another development where later when the students do integrated work, so there's a different process. Now, I'll just go to the software now. Okay, this is a demo. A timeline was made on the Chopin Nocturne. I would rather use this than something else which will distract people. All the bubbles here are what you create. This is the timeline. And it's related to the audio asset, which is now in my computer for demo purposes. But if I change the location, the whole thing collapses, all right? So the built-in protection is that if you want to establish a library outside the system, you have to organize it even in your laptop on that basis, you see, where you cannot move the assets. And that's, I think, the fundamental control system for copyright. Someone got it right. Huh? So now if I play the music, you will have the notes coming out, which were pre-written, and the notes relate to this section here, which is the overall, all the bubbles that you make, which have embedded notes in them, and then technical notes at the points. Okay? So in this case, technical notes are on the pedagogy of piano. So I'm going to play the work now. Technical note comes in. Okay. This is combined. So you get a note first here, and then here and here. Okay, it changes again. Now, let's say if at this point you need to confirm or put some other information on double stops, what you do is you put the link there, and then from there you will link into the wiki server where other assets are played. And those assets can be anything, but the timeline cannot be overloaded. If not, you will spoil the efficiency of the software. And it goes on and on. See? So anybody can do your analysis. So if I have 40 students and ask them to do an analysis of this, I'll get 40 versions. See? But they won't be rambling. Okay, now let's say I want a new timeline. So I want it also on Chopin. So I've gone back to my database and I say open, and this is what you get, right? So how do you create it? All these very simple bubbles. So for example, you put your cursor here, and you want to maybe I'll just arbitrarily create bubbles and create bubbles. It can be many bubbles, as much as you want. If you want squares, then you change it. And then I decide that at this point I want to put a marker. The markers are a bit sensitive. You got to place Okay. Now, let's say I want to I group them and I create the groups. So it depends on how you do it. So here I will say A, and I can write in any language your computer takes, okay? And then I apply. And straight away it comes here for that. So likewise, if you enter any of this, and here under this this area for the software too, the big story of whatever you want. So you can actually plan a whole essay to be delivered on one timeline and linked to many. And this is how the students do their presentations, because I don't want them to give me a paper where 80% is all about what somebody else wrote and nothing is from them. So if they say somebody else wrote about something, show me on the timeline. You see, if you can do that, then you pass. You can't do that, don't say it. So if 80% is yours, your chances of a higher grade is there. The administration, the deans got afraid actually of this. In the university, I introduced it first. Because what I discovered is that the professors are the ones who are afraid, because you can ramble about anything, but when it comes to specifics, and this is, I think, good for the profession, although I'm not a hero among them, but I demand this, and also of Singapore in particular. So the IPML has got nothing to do with the government. They are interested, but I said, no, when the time comes, I will quote you a fee, and that fee will be something that you can afford, but you would not be able to dream that I would quote you such a fee. I think this is purely for me. I have worked with the system for 3 decades. I know it can be better, but it's working for some other reason. Now, let's put this in context now. I'm not saying that you can adopt it, but music libraries, all right, the little background to this, I might as well tell you. This software is not what I created, but it's open source. So today, anybody can get it. But it's the management of the software. The IT people who built this were smart people. And it takes IT people to look at the specifics of this, to work around it. So you cannot run away from having IT people in your organization. Now, it was Library of Congress who initiated this, but no one knew about it because they wanted to keep it within America and within the top institutions. So they were invited to put forward a proposal with a lot of specifications, and most of it dealt with describing the work at the timeline and protection of the copyright must be absolute, because the industry is falling, plus particularly the classical industry, the classical music industry. And the prize was huge. Indiana University won it. Bloomington, there's a big difference between Indiana and Indianapolis. And then they set about doing this very confidently, and finally, the people who led it were not the musicians, it was the librarians. And this was not the software that they saw when it was released under Indiana. It was a lot of metadata, which the novel person cannot tolerate. Only IT people also will charge you a lot for doing that metadata. But the metadata was calling for all this timeline, see? And none of the professors at Indiana, music professors, wanted to be involved. It's not their job. It's the librarian's job. The librarians turned out and said, we are doing it for you. We never asked for it. So where do you go from there? So they tried to find out what the best way is. The best way is to have an easy software for us to work on. And the librarians did it in good faith. They got 3 very good engineers outside Indiana, and they worked on it and created Variations 1. This is Variations 3, which is the server-based software. Variations 1, it's like this, no change, but it had a lot of flaws in it. And the thing is that it went back, so the librarians were happy. When the musicians looked at it, this is where the divided opinion came out. The professors, of course, most professors will fear this software, because now you don't just put the date in which you got your information, now you put the date and time where it is. And that's revolution if it takes place. That means a lot of academic works can be counter-checked again. So there was no more support. I said, we did this for you. So one ethnomusicologist took it on, a very good friend of mine, but he never told me about the software. I met him in conferences, and he says, no, I'm working on it with my class. So because the software was not released, and then after 1 year or so, I met him again. I said, what's happening? He says, when the librarians took it, and they found out it was students, they said, no way they can use it. This is a Library of Congress. It's all professional to do this work. So the result was that the engineers gave up. They all left, but somebody released it to the internet. And that's how I got it. Many others have got it, but most people think it doesn't matter. But I think this will fundamentally change the way you put your information to sound, because that is what a lot of people want. So we are testing it in something called concert assist. So if you have a concert, my band students in particular, they are doing symphonies and all this type of stuff in Singapore. And so we say, all right, you got a concert coming, we will put some of this and give all of you free entry for 1 week. And you see whether it helps audience development. See? So it's at beginning stages. But I would say, yes, it can be done. As a service worldwide, professionals who would annotate works, the copyright protection is almost 100% with what this system is doing. And people who go in to listen to it go in by time, not forever. You see, and they cannot go anywhere else. It is one-to-one. You see, like you would do for any music record. And we have a way in the third server to monitor the effect of this. So in the next 5 years, in 5 years' time, if I come back here and give you another presentation, I can tell you the result. Okay. Okay, I think that's enough for me, because there's a lot of history to this, but it's not relevant. You see? But that is where I want to stop. I think I've given you the basic idea. It takes a lot of time for this, but lucky for the internet age, I can send the thing to some professional, he does it and send it back to me. It's very simple, you see. Thank you very much. There is another software for video, but you see, with video, you always slow down the timeline. And so we are trying to find a way around it. But the moment that we are secure enough, I will definitely let you know personally.
Yeah, because on internet I have seen some websites where the video is running and more or less similar to that.
Yes.
And you can read the note and you can fill in the line.
Exactly.
What the guy is saying, immediately you get it on.
Exactly. Exactly.
You can go back and
Do you know how it is created? A lot of post-production. You ask Shafi. Expensive. I don't know how much people charge for that, but in Singapore, it's in the thousands to do one editing for video. I ran this in NUS. I had a whole team. I automated it for myself. You see, I had to approve videos, but I couldn't stay in my desk. So I created a system, hybrid system. I can give you the specifications if you want to know, but it is hybrid. The chap who did it for me is still in Singapore. But it was for me to go into the internet. The producers will leave the stuff on the timeline, and I will go and review and put my comments. So this can go, this cannot go, because this is my responsibility. But I don't want to sit in my chair. I got music to do, miss. So yes.
Software can be accessed on
Yes,
internet.
yes, you can. This software, you just go to Indiana. But those who want it, I will ask Victor to send it to you, because he will find out the.
So if for our personal use, if you want to use
Yeah,
it,
you.
it's possible to stick.
Yeah. I see. But the setup is a bit complex. Yeah.
Is it cross-platform?
Yeah, open source. Definitely cross-platform.
What's on Windows?
Definitely. No, the IT guys knew. They are great. I'm keeping in touch with them, but they don't want to come out because I think the conflict with, I don't want to reveal things also. It's not right of me, you see. But someday I will sit with Indiana University. The day is not right yet. But nobody owns the rights to this software. It should be used by everyone, you see. And yes, you're right. I use it for my own planning. But I haven't come to the stage where I can present it to you in a presentation, because that will require Victor to stand by in Singapore and all that, you see. So I don't want to go into that. It has to go into the server, and if your Wi-Fi based links break, then everything breaks, you see. So
One question you asked, you said that you will send this as an exam paper to your students and 40 students will use it and you have 40 different.
yeah, 40 different.
How do you then give credit? Does software does this?
No.
Individually go to the
Yeah.
student's performance and
You have to-
evaluate yourself?
Yeah, that is a must in the academics.
Technological is-
Yeah, there is no software. Because if you create a software, you are creating a template. And if the students don't fit into the template, they fail. If the students know the template, all get A. All get A1s, you see? Then you got to use a plagiarizing software and so on. No, this software stops as your aid. It cannot do anything else. Don't believe anybody who says in education software can help you. No, it can help you to arrange, codify, and so on, you see? But I have in Messi another software which is based on the simple principle that when you buy a recording, what is your decision there? Why not the recording next to it? You see? And that is a software which I use now. It was done for my PhD. A lot of people said it was crazy, like Alan Lomax, But I said it's fine. Because today I measured 27 cities through the emissions, radio, television. Here, this afternoon, I will collect from your local radio stations and put it into, I'm publishing a book on this, and so probably you'll be in it too. Now, I don't need to seek permission from anybody, because it's a free air. But that defines your soundscape. What you emit through radio, television. If you say it's the boss of radio, you are wrong. It's your job. If you cannot control the output, you can't control it by law, you can't control it by demonstrating on the street, you can only control it by music education. And if your music education is anchored in Kodai and all this stuff from Europe, God help you. You see, you have to do it in your own environment, like them. Kodai himself wrote a very bold statement, don't use it in any other countries, because Britain was planning under Anne Murray, a legendary music educator. Nothing has worked, because Kodai said, if you use my system, you are going to make your nation Hungarians. See? And that is the principle. Now, so far, governments, even till today, do not know that it is their responsibility. And the industry has no right to dominate the airwaves the way they are doing, but governments know that the people have allowed it. Because you, at the point at which you are buying or you are switching your station, you are making that decision. So I want to know why. So I created the software. See, it's based on some fundamentals, and essentially all music in the world is the same material, but it's used differently. So you need to restructure how you teach and so on. It's a tall job. Last year, at the same time as you ran your conference, Chennai, the minister herself, who passed away, called all the teachers in the schools to the university, the arts university, which she founded, and they had to discuss this very sensitive topic of the Garda system and the system they are using, like Kodai. You know, so all politicians have to call such conferences all over the world, especially in Asia. And the reason is because it's a seismic move. Who is going to take the lead? In that time you had Kodai off and all these people, they took the lead out of their own interest. It was not national. They succeeded and then it became national, you see. So the field is open for Asia. There is zero now, I'm telling you. I follow everything in this part of the world.
What role can record labels play in documenting?
Nothing. They won't document for you. They will document for them to assess it for the airway. That software is not yours. They will never give it to you. I've seen all this sophisticated software of classification, codification, software that can take text and give you, so you say, I love you or you love me, 100 things will come out on that software immediately, because DJs have to be able to move. They have all that, powerful systems. And some of the networks run on their own systems. And for video, it's fantastic. They have all this. Timeline, $9 million. 15 years ago, I checked. Singapore Broadcasting Corporation, I went to see. They have all what we are doing for tuppence. They have, but it's 9 million. Who's going to give me 9 million to do this? They haven't even given me a cent to do what I'm doing. So I would say you need to do it yourself, like our great Sunny. He is the epitome of an example in India, and I'm going to use him like Polunin. So this laboratory will become part of the fifth one in my orbit.
Any other queries? Yeah, please.
So why did you say that in video you would slow down the timeline?
You see, the audio moves very efficiently, you see. So you put text on top of audio. The moment you have audio and video, the bandwidth to pull is a lot. So if you're pulling across the world, you will always find glitches. You stop here, you stop there, you stop there. You see, it's not efficient. But in this software, it runs even on low bandwidth because it's so small. Text is very small. You see, so we devised a system where you put the URL of your asset, but it's placed in the wiki server, not somewhere else. So students do their projects on the basis of putting their assets in the wiki server, putting the audio asset in the proper timeline server, variation server, and working on the software on their laptop. So yes, the controller has everything. So Victor will have your timeline to link separately in the library under what we are doing. But the student will have the timeline always, and those who share can keep the timeline. And some of these timelines are very sophisticated, done by professors, and they write books. Do they get paid? Well, the principle here is that they get paid on the basis of usage. But all of this is done not through automated systems, it's done through real people doing it. Because the moment you allow an automation, the hackers come in. You see, no, I don't want to open any door, because I understand hacking. See, not to say they can't break the wall down, but there's no need. This is, the industry will get nervous, I'll tell you, because if this works, then there's a change in the way people buy video or audio. Now, video, Indiana too did it. You can still go to the Indiana University site. They have a few others. There's one you can do on their time, on their server. Media Cult or something. I tried it. But they give you 10 gig maximum, and you cannot expand it. What can you do with 10 gig with video? 10 gig you can have a whole audio library, but 10 gig you can only have maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes of video, you see? So, and that video to download also takes a lifetime. You see? So video is something that the protocols can develop further. But the trouble is that, like for example, when you are digitizing, you want the best level. So the story of the Polunin lab is this. Singapore government came in because this man has got footage of Singapore that no one has. So they have to touch base somewhere. So National Library took it on. I was part of the team negotiating with them. I negotiated for 60-40. The family gets 60, the state gets 40. They agreed to it. And then they took the whole lot of cans. It was not there for two years. And they went through it with a contractor in Sri Lanka because that's the cheapest rate you can get. They didn't come to India where the professionals are, or Australia. And they digitized 40% of it. And when it came back, the 40% are in a high-grade digital format, but it's on tape. Because if you have server, you will have to have $80,000 worth of servers. So I cannot use it to do any research. I have to buy $80,000 worth of servers to put in the Polunin lab to look at his own videos. So I said, no, we are not going to. We have a different process for that because that is footage management. That sells footage to big boys. Yeah? So you look at the low-level video, we can send it to you by email, the whole library, low-level video. Anything you want the footage, you tell us the time code, you send it back. We will send you the high-res, but we will cost it. And it's a large sum, you see. But if that works, then it collects the funds to create the system to put into server the video. And only then can we work on the timeline. See? Yes, it's very possible for timeline. I've done it before for NUS, but as usual, the top doesn't know. They're just not qualified. So it's my wish to have video, but it's just not possible. But if you look at the Indiana side, there are many, many things. People there are thinking, but they are not doing. They are doing to this level, but doing means doing it into coursework. See? So that is where the problems come. So private labs will become the most important in the next generation, and so teach the students. And for me, all students have to attend my class. If you cannot, you have to come to Skype. You see, if not, you lose marks. You have a tight rate on them because you provide the technology. Yeah, you can't come because you got a problem. Lectures are recorded, and so you can have a lecture there. So you have to be on the ball, but you can do your own thing. Because that's what I did in NUS. They had no clue what I was doing. So you employ me as an administrator to look after video, but I spend 80% of my time doing academic music away from Singapore. And I'm still operating on my job, because if the producer wants something to be approved by tomorrow, I would have done it in the night before in some other place, because I can see everything on the low resolution video. Right? So yes, if you want to do it, I will link you to the people who did that for me, where you can put timeline to video. But for education purposes, I'd rather not. I would say you have a video, put it in a separate server, but from your text, because sound must come back into the forefront. In the Indian concerts in Singapore, model concerts, I think here too, the performers performing, the whole audience is attuned to the raga and tala, and all of them are doing this. Of course, they are waiting for the mistake. But when the mistake occurs, they all go together. That is the audience I want to see worldwide for classical music, traditional music, tribal music, no problem. I've been with the tribes in the mountains in the Philippines. Everyone is a participant. They know, they learn from young. Perfect, but no software. Terrific. Memory is...
Okay.